So my story really goes back to my days playing in the NFL. I played for the NFL for 6 years for 3 different teams. And during that time, I had some injuries like we all do. And one thing I came to find out pretty quickly was that opiates really helped with the pain that I was going through. Somewhere in the middle of my career, I got addicted to painkillers. And there was just never a good time to stop that. And really that continued on through the rest of my career. And when I was done playing, I found other drugs. Adderall became a big important part of my life, I should say. Like, important in the sense that I thought I needed it in order to function and perform. Like, performance has always been a part of my life. And so much of my value, my self-worth was based on my performance. And when I retired from the NFL, I went back to school to get my MBA. And while I was in school, I was finding it hard to keep up. And so I found Adderall and then eventually cocaine. And that became a problem for many, many years afterwards. I never felt there was going to be a good time for me to come off of that, because as soon as I did, all of a sudden I wasn't able to perform anymore. I wasn't able to show up the way I wanted to in my work, with my family, in my social life. I was not willing to go through the withdrawals and the detox and the time that was necessary to reset my life. So that went on for a while, and then someone introduced me to Kratom in 2016, and that decimated my body and my life. It kind of ruined my insides and rotted my teeth, and eventually rotted my brain to the extent that I was living a life of pure anxiety and paranoia 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then to take the edge off of that, I would smoke marijuana. So pretty quickly I became a chemist in my own life, sort of a street chemist. I found ways to cope with whatever I was feeling that I didn't want to feel. I finally went to a rehab in 2022 at my wife's behest, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't quite ready. I did it because she asked me to, and so I went. I got off the Kratom, but I stayed on everything else. And as soon as I got out of that program, I was right back to it. And I finally hit a rock bottom a little over a year ago, when I realized the pain I was causing in the life of my wife and kids and my loved ones, my family, my parents. For some reason, I was completely blind to that until one day it just hit me what I was doing. And as soon as I realized what I was doing and the pain I was causing, the willingness hit me. Right? Like, all of a sudden I accepted that I was an addict. I accepted that I was not going to be able to do this on my own, and I reached out for help. And I did some research online, and I found Apex, and I just took a leap of faith and decided I would give it a shot. So I called Apex, and right away he told me, why don't you come in? They made me feel very comfortable. I came in, Branch was the first person I saw, our VP, and Branch walked me through the entire intake process. He made me realize and believe that I was going to be okay, that there was hope on the other end of this thing, that I didn't have to be relegated to a life of misery for the rest of my existence, and that there was a chance that I would actually be able to recapture what I had lost in addiction. So he got me in very quickly. The next day my wife drove me in. Of course I was scared, as most people are going into treatment. And I got there, and right away felt very welcomed. My wife walked me in the front doors, and by the time we got to the receptionist, I was ready to go. I was ready to stay, I should say, and for her to go. So, she checked on me, are you okay? I'm like, I think I'm gonna be fine here. And I was. Once we got through those doors and did the intake process, it was a bit like going to a summer camp. They say the 2 worst days of rehab are your first day and your last day. And that was absolutely my experience. The first day was uncomfortable because I was withdrawing from drugs. The last day I didn't want to leave. And that was the bad part about the last day, was that I wasn't ready to go home. I had been given the tools necessary to be ready to live a new life, but I didn't want to go because I had made friends, I had made a new home, and I felt very comfortable and safe there. Not to mention, you got 3 incredible meals a day. You had the night time to really socialize with other clients, which was nice. So I made a lot of friendships there that I still have today, and that was very important to me. And that's not to even speak about the programming, but the programming was fantastic. The number of modalities that we were exposed to was different than anything I experienced before. Things I had never heard of, things like Qigong and Tai Chi, something called Filipino stick fighting that actually has an incredible therapeutic benefit. And so I was able to really open up and accept a lot of different inputs that otherwise I had been probably turned off to or scared of. So it was a perfect environment. It was the perfect approach. And by the time I left there, I did feel like I had new footing in life. So I think the unique thing about Apex is sort of the comprehensiveness of the programming. I don't think there's any one thing that stands out completely, but when you put them all together and integrate lots of different modalities and lots of different approaches, you take a holistic approach to this thing and it actually works. I think so many people that are in addiction think that the problem is just their addiction, just the substance. And what I've learned is that's rarely ever the case. There's usually some underlying mental issues. And so the beautiful thing about Apex and its dual diagnosis programming is that we approach it from both angles. We say we need to handle this substance use problem, but we also need to touch on these underlying mental health issues. Otherwise, you're just going to go right back out and repeat the same mistakes that you made. So Apex has really changed my life in a number of ways. The most notable to me was that it gave me hope. I was really resigned to the idea that I was going to be an addict for the rest of my life. And nothing really was able to sort of turn me away from that idea until I got in and met people who were where I was and had recovered and recaptured a better life. So I think that we're all in need of hope, no matter where we come from. But certainly people at their rock bottom in addiction need hope more than anything, and I think Apex gave me that. It also gave me the tools that I needed to be able to cope with life on life's terms. You know, that's a term we use often in recovery, is dealing with life on life's terms, and not dealing with it in a way that we're trying to control it. And I think I settled into this idea that life was going to be fine. Everything was going to be okay. I just had to stay the course. The message I would want to give someone who is deliberating whether or not they want to come to Apex is that there is hope, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's better on the other side of this thing. It's very scary going in, and that's normal. And if you feel scared, then you're probably in the right place. But on the other side of this thing, there's hope, there's life, and for me, there's really thriving.